So it's not just State Farm anymore. Allstate is no longer selling new home insurance policies in the state of California. Last week, we talked about State Farm, kind of went through all the mechanics there. And we've known that Allstate, slyly, they've kind of been, we're not really selling policies here in California. But late last week, Friday, they came right out and announced it. I think they saw Allstate or State Farm announce it. Now we're getting into it. Here we go. So now we've got 2 of the top 4 insurance providers in California no longer insuring homes. Let's get into it. Californians looking to buy a house face some of the country's most expensive real estate prices and wildfires that threaten scores of housing tracts. Now there's another obstacle: finding an insurer willing to cover their dream home. One of the reasons I'm reading this article is there's an aspect of the real estate in there where, since I'm, real estate guy kind of ish, where when you go to get a loan on a home, your lender is going to require you to get an insurance policy that basically covers them in the event something crazy happens and to the house and you default. They're going to want the house squared away, and they're going to want the house squared away anyway, because that's what they're lending the money on, right? And it's usually just, all right, go get your insurance policy. Well, imagine in California, 2 out of the top 4 insurance carriers are done. Things are getting a little tricky, getting a little tough to find insurance. So if you're in an area that's close to wildfire, if you're in an area that's, got anything wrong with it whatsoever, pickings are going to be slim for you, because the risks are higher because these other carriers, 2 big carriers, have pulled out. State Farm General Insurance said last week it's no longer accepting new applications for property and casualty coverage in California because of soaring wildfire and construction costs and a challenging reinsurance market. Now, Allstate Corp has told the Department of Insurance that it stopped selling new home insurance policies last year. And I've had a number of you reach out to me and say, hey, this has already been happening. Here's the deal. The notice was part of a recent request for a nearly 40% rate increase for home and business property and casualty insurance. The move by the 2 insurers, State Farm was California's largest property insurer. That's the one that pulled out last week. And Allstate was 4th as of 2021. Could worsen what the FAIR plan, a state-mandated insurance pool, has called an impending insurance availability crisis. We've always got crises going on, don't we? Are they really, though? I mean, is this really a crisis? Oh, I can't get insurance? Well, if you're looking to buy a home and you've got everything else lined up, and then you find out you can't get insurance, or insurance is super expensive, that becomes a deal breaker. So this is an issue where policy in California has dictated that businesses say, no more. We're not doing this. We're losing too much money in Cali. We've got this risk. We don't have the ability to ask for these increases because of Proposition, I think it's 103, that basically put a kibosh on any rate increases moving forward. A whole big insurance deal. We have a lot of people going naked. Which means they have no insurance, said Bill Dodd. He's a Democratic state senator representing fire-scarred Napa County and other parts of Northern California. What my constituents want is insurance. Well, they need insurance because you're not going to get a loan without getting some insurance. If you want to pay cash for something, take your risks on insuring that bad boy, which is a stupid, stupid move. Go for it. But if you're, California is already super expensive, so you're probably not going cash. You're going to be putting a down payment. You're going to be getting financing. Insurance required. If you can't get any, that makes things tricky, doesn't it? Problematic. The FAIR plan, which offers minimal coverage at high rates, is meant to be a provider of last resort. But enrollments have surged 70% since 2019 to 272,846 homes in 2022. So 250,000 homes. All right. But relative to the population of California, that is a tiny, tiny, tiny drop in the bucket. But what we're saying is that we've already got this established issue going on. And when you have another major carrier pull out, that does not leave for a lot of options. Just you're taking away insurance options from residents of California. And you know what? It's because the state of California, trying to protect the consumer. And in reality, their legislation is basically backfiring, and it's going to cost folks even more to insure in California. And that's if they can get the insurance. The average California homeowners insurance premium is $1,300, compared with more than $2,000 in other states with wildfire risk and $4,000 in hurricane-prone Florida, according to the Insurance Information Institute. But new home buyers could be forced to pay more, regardless of their home's proximity to wildfire dangers. And that's because of the policy. Before State Farm's announcement, the company requested a 28% rate hike on homeowners insurance. Allstate has filed for a 39.6% increase. The insurance crunch is affecting buyers across the state already, even in areas where the wildfire risk is low. In San Francisco, real estate agents say that they have seen deals fall through because would-be buyers couldn't get insured. Talk about legislation that just messes with, normal day-to-day operations. So now you've got a situation where not only do you have to figure out if you can get financing, then, whatever kind of studies you want to do, whether it's a building inspection, feasibility to do remodeling or all that other good stuff. Insurance is typically a given. All right, go out and get your insurance policy. You're going to have, a dozen major carriers just basically, try and hit you up and, get you the best deal. And you should, most of those quotes are going to be within a pretty tight range because it's, insuring homes and you've got basically the same risk throughout the entire area. But what we're saying here is, all right, so these two big carriers, they need more in premiums. And the state of California, with their proposition that was established in 1988, I think it was, basically precludes them from doing rate hikes without showing what the modeling is based on. So insurance companies do not want to disclose that. It's not good optics. All right, you're insuring based on what? Oh, hey now. Some of those moments. What we're hearing is that now when buyers present an offer on a property, we're not only asking them for pre-approval for a lender, we're also asking them if they've spoken to their insurance agent, if they'll insure the property. So in California, in these areas, known areas, there's another big question, another big buyer's objection to overcome possibly. Can we get insurance? And this is from Joski Thompson, a broker at Compass with 40 years experience in the area. All right, so you've got the pre-approval. You guys know what that is. That's just a piece of paper that the lender has asked the buyer a couple of basic questions. Okay, based on this, I'm going to give you a range of affordability that you can, go out and take this piece of paper and tell people, well, I'm a little bit qualified to buy this home, but it's all dependent upon this other stuff that we'll get into later if you accept my offer. That used to be kind of one of the main things. Can you afford the home? Now it's, all right, can you afford the home? And can you get homeowners insurance, which should be just a given, right? Like car insurance. Can you get car insurance? Unless you've got, a crazy driving record, you're going to be able to get car insurance, right? Well, not so in California, especially not so in areas with proximity to the wildfire. Home insurance is an essential part of purchasing a home. Mortgage lenders require proof of insurance before approving the transaction to protect their investment in the property. Is that before approval? Insurance is insurance before approval. Mortgage people, let me know in the comments. I thought it was just prior to closing. Without insurance, buyers would be forced to make an all cash purchase in most cases. And then, like the article says, go naked. Who's going to put $1.3 million into a home and then not get insurance? It'll be okay. I know we're close to the wildfires, but I'm a risk taker. I'm a small business owner. I'm a risk taker. I'm just going to go ahead and we'll see how the, dice roll on this bad boy. 1.3 burns down. You've got vacant land, can't rebuild. Nah, you're in a protected area now. You're in a wildfire refuge. As the state's insurance woes accelerate, the industry is taking aim at California's marquee consumer protection law, Proposition 103, Prop 103. And that's a ballot measure voters approved in 1988. 1988, my freshman year in college, right? I started fall of 87 and then, 88. The law has saved consumers tens of billions of dollars and reduced insurance rate hikes, according to the state's insurance regulator. And now those insurance companies are coming back around for, the opposite end, which is, no, we're not insuring anymore. And by the way, if you do want insurance, it's going to cost you. Because for the last 20 years, what's happened in the insurance industry is they have written forward-looking policies based on the last 20 years of data. And now things have gotten a little bit hotter temporarily. Who knows? You got a little bit of climate change happening. Who knows? What we do know is that California's had some pretty crazy wildfires, right? And temperatures have risen. And so from that standpoint, there is far greater risk, especially in areas in California where they're building homes. Because, in a lot of the congested areas, they're building next to foliage, and that has a chance of catching on fire if it gets a little dry. And that's what's been happening, right? So you've got this thing where, we're going to save you a whole bunch of money, your legislation. That's okay. Now it's coming back because businesses will not continue to operate in an area where they're not making money. And I remember State Farm saying that basically just like this, in the last 6 years, we've lost 20 years worth of underwriting profit. And that was due to the catastrophic wildfires that we've faced. So Janet Ruiz, a spokesperson with the Insurance Information Institute. So they are not able to make a profit. And part of that is because they can't raise their premiums to cover the risk. So they're in insurance and their game is covering risk. If they can't cover it, nope, we're out. We're done. Bet you anything, California works with them and goes, okay, we were a little hard-nosed with the Prop 103. And we know that, moving forward, we're going to need to change things up a little bit. How can we help you help us? Something like that. Harvey Rosenfeld, Harvey Weinstein, that guy. Harvey Rosenfeld, the author of Proposition 103 and founder of the advocacy group Consumer Watchdog, said climate change might require insurance companies to raise rates, but he argued that companies are using wildfire costs to gouge customers. Are they? I mean, we just read relative to other states, California is cheaper, then their risk is greater. So are they really gouging customers, or do they want something where they can make their appropriate profit? Well, clearly, if two of the biggest carriers exit the marketplace, that kind of tells you a little something, right? It tells you a little something where we're at. Now, you've got a proposition on the books that doesn't allow business to basically operate at a level where insurance companies can operate their companies, and they're saying, nope, we're going to pull out. No can do, no want to do. You guys work it out. Get back to us. We'll talk about insuring in your state again. Insurance companies are very opportunistic, he said. Remember, this is a guy from the Consumer Watchdog. Insurance companies are very opportunistic, he said. They have seized on climate change as an excuse to escape from the regulatory protections that voters enacted. Well, voters enacted the protections, and now they're getting the tail end of that, which is, not in your state anymore. No more insurance policies written in your state. So it's not happening in any other states, is it? I'm not reading about state of Washington. I'm not reading about state of Texas, Florida, Idaho, Vermont, just California, because the laws on the books that they have there, on top of the physical issues that are going on in the state, which is, a lot of houses are burning up. They built a lot of these houses next to areas that had known fire potential. And because of the density and the way that, development goes in California, it'll be fine. We'll throw this to subdivision up here. It'll be good. And then you have roaring, like we've seen in the news, just all these areas in California where fire comes down the hill and takes out house after house after house. Horrible. We've had a fair amount of fires here in the last, I'd say the last 4 years. We've had some horrific wildfire smoke in Bellevue coming from either BC or down in LA in California, Northern California. Is it LA? Hollywood Hills. Yeah. I mean, they've, had fires all over, right? And so I remember the summer of 2020, the sky here got almost like an orange tint to it for many, many nights. And that was the filtered light through smoke. And we had days where we would hustle and just shut the front door of the office here. It's like, oh, don't get that smoke in here. And it felt like you were, back in the day when you go to a concert and you smoke some cigarettes and maybe something else. And you just have you have a fun evening. But then the next day you wake up and you're all dehydrated and you're like, oh, I don't feel so good. My lungs don't feel so good. All that stuff I put in them. You'd feel like that just walking around. And the fires from Vancouver, BC, those were crazy. Those were crazy. But California is the one that's really being impacted here because, what they've already got in the books is such that, unless things change, other carriers are probably going to do the same. California's got a real issue on its hands. All of a sudden, the housing in these areas. And I haven't seen indications where other areas they've had issues of getting fire insurance, but there's enough of that going on in general in California that an insurance company is just basically pulling all out from the state as a response to, hey, our profits, last 20 years of premiums have literally gone up in flames on all these homes. And now we need to be able to make a change to our premiums. And your Proposition 103 doesn't allow us to do that the normal way they would, which is, hey, this is what we need. This is what we're going to charge. No can do. So I've been listening to a bunch of Spotify as I do, either that or I'll, put on a playlist on YouTube. I used to do, what's the other one? Starts with a P, Pandora. I used to do Pandora. I've gone to Spotify. Spotify has this Amica ad where, empathy, and I talked about it on the Allstate. It's so bad. It's like, we know that the most important part of a home is you, the inhabitant, or whatever their little slogan goes. And I'm like, nope, you're not insuring people. They're insuring the home. You do not care about people, but you're going to try and spin this as you are the most empathetic because empathy is so, so important. What a bunch of nonsense. You're there to make money off insuring stuff that people hope they never have to, use. It's like life insurance. You need it, but when you're dead, you're not really going to need it. Your loved ones are. And when you have a home, you hope you never have to use homeowners insurance because that typically means something bad happened. So bottom line here is the regulatory protections that voters enacted have come back to bite them in the ass. That's the bottom line here. I mean, that's just what we're doing. And for anybody to say anything other than that, okay, yeah, but it's not this kind of scenario isn't happening in other states, is it? It's like business as usual in all the other states in the United States. So you've got some stuff going on. California in particular, I think, is right at that point where you've got so many issues. They got people leaving and populations moving. And I had somebody the other day was like, San Francisco is going to hit $1 billion in budget negativity. They're going to go $1 billion upside down relative to their tax base, relative to what they're bringing in, relative to what they need to operate. $1 billion. So you've got just a bunch of stuff going on. Other cities have deficits as well, but California is always so big and San Francisco is such a big town. You throw that on top of a bunch of this stuff happening and insurance being such a major big deal because like we said, if you can't get it, the deal may not go through. If you are making, getting insurance, which most people do, part of their transaction. And that's usually just you don't even think about it. You just check the box and go, yep. All right. We're going to go get a standard homeowners insurance policy. Just standard, nothing crazy. We're not doing the survey. We're not doing all that extra stuff. We're not getting an enhanced policy. And it's just a given. Like it's just something you got to do in order to buy a house. And now that becomes kind of a major deal within the transaction that shouldn't be there. It shouldn't be an issue. Insurance companies should just be begging to insure the most expensive real estate in all of the United States, right? As a state, California's got the most expensive as an aggregate of any of the states. So this is a super interesting one from the standpoint of 2 weeks running. We've got two major carriers that have both said, hasta la vista, no more. State of California will come back. They'll do some kind of negotiation. They'll do some kind of Mickey Mouse thing. They'll probably totally cave. I don't know how that works though with the proposition, but there'll be some kind of workaround where, hey, you know what? We're not really going to announce this, but here's what you guys can do. There will be some kind of thing, because having these insurance carriers permanently be out of the picture, that could be disastrous for California. Now, how much of this affects, just the wildfire area and how much of it affects the rest of the state? Well, they've pulled out on a wide basis. They can't go in and just do an area. I believe it's a statewide thing. So it impacts everybody in that state from what I understand of this scenario. So this has been a really super interesting one from the standpoint of, all right, you guys did this. Here's your end result. And we had the whole climate change thing and the whole, if you believe that, I know a lot of folks that are like, yeah, it's gotten warmer, but whole impacts of climate change, still not behind it. I was watching somebody explaining how it was some kind of congressional hearing deal. And they're like, okay, so you've been told to evacuate the city for whatever reason. You got to go. And now we've got XYZ number of million people all on the highways trying to get out of California City. And they're all in their electric cars. And they all, they're all in a standstill for 8 hours. And now you've got no power. And you've run your car out of power. So what do you suggest then? And the individual is like, oh, maybe they should carpool with somebody that's got, yeah, right. During a mass emergency. How's that whole electric car thing going on? Maybe you didn't charge your car. Yeah. Well, and there's already been issues where California said, everybody is going to need to, we're only buying new cars that are electric after 2030, I think it was. Oh, and by the way, would you mind not charging your electric vehicle this weekend? It's going to be a hot weekend. And the power grid can't exactly support all the air conditioning and you charging your car. So stay home, don't charge your car, and run your AC at a minimum. We've literally had that happen. I think it was last summer or the summer before. It's like, what? And it was the same week that they came out with, after 2030, we're not going to have any more gas-powered cars new being sold in California. And yet at the same during that same week, later in the week, like, oh, by the way, would you mind, not charging that vehicle? Because man, those bad boys take up a lot of power. There's so many things in the kind of the mechanical process of the electric vehicle thing that it's kind of like President Biden saying, we're going to be relying upon fossil fuels for at least the next decade. I was in that last State of the Union address. That was one of the few things that stuck with me because it was so ridiculous. It's like, you're the president of the United States and you just said that? That is silliness. To think that we're going to, maybe for the next 11 years, we're going to be relying upon fossil fuels, as a world, as a planet. It's like, specifically the U.S. is, not leading the way there by any means, right? So, it's kind of one of those things where you just want to talk about, oh, my carbon footprint, so small. We're doing such great things. And now you've got a situation in Cali where, okay, yeah, that policy that you thought was going to cover your constituents. Yeah. Well, business is saying, no, we need to make a change here. Unless we can make a change, no more insurance for you. We're done. So I believe this will be a temporary thing because there's no way in California is going to be able to go without having insurance for even a small portion of its population, if that is the case, because proximity to the wildfires, what percentage of the geography in California is that? I don't know, but it's not massive, but it's massive enough where all the fires that have taken place and all the houses that have been taken out, those are some, billion-dollar numbers, right? Because think about it. In just one house alone in Cali is what, an average $1 million, depending on what area you're in. I'm obviously making massive generalizations, but some of the areas where, homes have been taken out, 2, 3, 4, 5 million is not uncommon. 5 million here in Bellevue is a nice new construction home, decent size, no views. That's just what you pay. It's expensive, right? Take a few of those out, you're up 10 million. Doesn't take long to get to a billion. So those are kind of some of the numbers going on. And this to me is, policy that people voted in, and I don't think they're going to want to do a deep dive and kind of try and understand what's really going on here. They're just going to blame their politicians and go, what happened? We can't get insurance. This sucks. It's kind of one more thing that puts the whole California into, this sucks. Leave, get out. And I know there's a lot of people in California that like living there, and there's a lot of people that do want to leave. This is kind of just one more reason why California's choice of policy is going in the wrong direction. And they'll try and find, things like insurance companies are very opportunistic. They have seized on climate change. Well, they're not seizing on climate change. They're saying, hey, if you guys restrict us, we don't have any other options. We got to pull out of your state. So unless you give us these insurance premium, these new insurance premiums that we're going to be able to charge, those are some pretty big hikes, by the way. What was it? 28, almost 29% and 40%, 28% hike on Allstate, or Allstate's at 39.6, almost a 40% increase. And State Farm is at a 28% increase. But that is to try and catch up the last XYZ number of decades where, due to the proposition that they enacted, has basically not allowed these insurance companies to charge what they need to for today's risk. It basically got their insurance risk premiums got capped, and here they are. And so in 2023, we're kind of having that final reckoning. And it's just one, like I said, it's one more thing that I think is going to make people think about, you know what, maybe California isn't for me. Because the big difference between California and Texas would have figured something out. They would have never put together a Proposition 103. They just wouldn't have. Now, the Proposition 103 came on, what was that? I think there was some extremely rapidly rising insurance premiums, and I'm going off memory there. And so there was just all of a sudden increased insurance due to a number of risk type things going on in California itself. And so some politician, let's cap these insurance rates. Now, all these decades later, you're dealing with it because it's made it to a situation where it's been impossible for these insurance companies to basically want to operate and stay in business in a state like California because of its specific legislation that no other state has, just like the Proposition 103 that I'm aware of. So that is my take. And I've probably got some of these details probably off a little bit, but I've scanned, a bunch of content on this issue. And when you got two major carriers pulling out, that's not just one company who's undercapitalized or whatever saying, I don't think so. That's a pretty big indicator that not all is well, even just if you want to analyze it from the wildfire risk. But not all is well in California if you can't get insurance on a new home that you're looking to purchase. One more thing, one more reason for people to maybe look at another state. It's like, can't really get insurance there. Texas, no wildfires there. Let's go there. Insurance, cheaper. Everything's cheaper in Texas relative to California, right? So one state, highly regulatory. Another state, yeah, pro-business. Let's go. That's what you got going on. All right, that's it for me. Until next week, when we'll bring in the third carrier, if there is one. And if there is, you want to be subscribed. You want to hit that notification bell so that you'll get notified when I talk about that one. All right, thanks so much for being here. I will catch up with you in the next one. Bye for now.